It is March, which means, Kyle,
March Madness!
The madness is almost here. We still have a few games left in the regular season, but then we head to Birmingham for the American Conference Championship. I'm Maria Trivelpiece. That's Kyle Youmans. We have the women's episode of All-American to talk all things Rice, East Carolina, South Florida, everything involved in that. But Kyle, I am so excited because it is March.
It is March, and we do have a regular season champion. Congratulations to the Rice Owls. We'll get into the ins and outs of how they got to this point, but congratulations to Coach Edmonds, who, by the way, is going to join us later in the show. So wanted to make sure you stick around for that one. Can't wait to talk to Coach Edmonds, and congratulations to her and the Rice Owl squad. But let's take a look at the standings as they sit going into the final week of the regular season. Undefeated Rice, 16-0. Wow. 21 straight wins, and we'll talk more about that momentarily. But then you've got all the teams that have clinched spots in the American Championship. How about ECU, South Florida, North Texas, Tulsa, UTSA, Temple, Charlotte, Florida Atlantic, and then the teams on the outside looking in right now, Wichita State, UAB, Memphis, trying to work their way up and take a couple spots here and there. But, man, what a look as we go into the first week of March.
I've just been so impressed with this Rice team. I know we've talked about it a lot, but how about South Florida, too? That was a team that we've been unsure of. And not because they don't have the talent, but just unsure of how they would fare towards the end of the year. Here's the thing. They won the tournament last year. You know where they finished?
Third.
Yep. So they're sitting in a good spot right now. So anything can happen when March comes around, but that's what it's looking like right now.
I don't think you expected me to get that so quickly off the top.
I was impressed with that.
Yeah, I could tell you were about to say it, and then I've got it.
The problem is, right. Kyle, you are just so prepared. I can never dupe you with any questions.
I also got to see them for the first time in person this past week in a really good game against North Texas. We're going to talk about that game quite a bit in a moment. But you talk about being unsure. I was sure about South Florida. Or I was iffy on South Florida. Now I'm sure they are still very much so the standard in the conference, along with Rice and East Carolina and the teams that they're up at the top with. But, man, if you're going to count out the Bulls going into March, I've got another thing coming. They are going to be legit. Let's talk about the Rice Owls, though.
Oh, I love talking about the Rice Owls. They won the regular season. Congratulations to Coach Lindsay, Edmonds, and that entire squad. The thing about this team, Kyle, is that they are the epitome of a team.
Yeah.
You don't know who the best player is because different people step up on any given night. They are so complete. They have so much depth. And they're performing in the regular season, which is something that they've struggled with the last 2 years. And so if you're Lindsay Edmonds, you got to be happy with this group.
You think? It's 16-0 in conference play.
21 game win streak?
Which, by the way, is tied for the longest in program history going back to 2019. 5th regular season title in Rice basketball history. And this is a team that just doesn't have any concerns at this level. I mean, they know how to win games. Close games, not so close games. They've dominated performances. They've not played well, but still pulled it out. And that's exactly what a great team, a legendary team in this conference can do. I mean, let's just take a look at the Tulsa game that happened this past weekend, shall we? Tied at 23 at the end of the first quarter. They outscored Tulsa 82-42 the rest of the way in a 40-point win against a team that's top half of the conference in the standings. But it wasn't just one player, Maria. It was multiple players. It was Victoria Flores, who led the Owls with 24 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, and a block. Shelby Hayes had 20 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal. Dominique Ennis, who was thought to be the head and shoulders above one of the best players in the conference. Newsflash, she still is, but she also had 19 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists. Luann Battistone had 17 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 3 steals. Anaya Alexis, you get the point here.
I think I'm picking up what you're putting down here, Kyle.
Rebounded double-digit with 10 points, 7 rebounds, an assist, a steal. This team is so stacked. They have all the pieces of what it takes to win, not only in January and February, but do so in March as well. This is an incredible roster and an incredible season. Look at what they did against Tulsa.
That game was absurd to me because the first half, it's very evenly matched. The second 2 quarters, Rice just completely dominates. Obviously, you look at the offensive numbers, I think it was 24 and 28 points. I'm lost it in my notes here. But then it's also the defense to hold Tulsa to 9 points in the fourth quarter. So it is just incredible because you think that you're in the game. You think that you're going to have an opportunity to take down the team that hasn't lost in conference yet. And the Owls say, oh, no. This is how we can play. And different people step up and they come and they win that game. And Tulsa's a team that we talked about on this show that had the potential to be in the contest.
And
for
they still might.
They still might. There's still a few games left. But the fact that they could do it against a team like Tulsa, who does have some good pieces as well, just makes it even more impressive.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to ask you the impossible question. And don't worry, I'm also going to ask this to Coach Edmonds later in the show. But who's the best player on this team? Because I can't figure it out.
That's a trick question.
It is.
It is. It's 100% a trick question because the best player on the team is somebody different every night, right? Yeah. And I think the best player on the team is, I think, the mentality of the team. If you want to be figurative and, what words do we usually use?
Metaphor.
Yeah.
Metaphorically.
It's the personality and the mentality of the team. That's the best player because that's why they win these games, because they know that they have a lot of great pieces who can come together to win basketball games against anybody in this conference. And I'd even argue against a lot of people and a lot of teams in the country. So I think that the best player on this team, to answer your trick question, isn't an individual. It's the way that the individuals play together.
Well, and that's what Rice does, right? And not just as a team, but as a university. I mean, they're known as the Stanford of the South. I mean, they have a high quality of education. They have a high quality of individual that it takes to even graduate from the university itself and to excel in the university itself. I mean, it's an incredible atmosphere. But Lindsay Edmonds knew how to buy into that and knew how to tap into the type of education they have and tie that to the type of player that they're going to get. And we've talked all year long about how disciplined they are and how they take care of the basketball. They do the little things right. They rebound. They hit at a high percentage. They knock down free throws. I mean, all of those things are true, but then you add the upper echelon talent, and that's what's made them unstoppable this year. It's really impressive. But let me ask you this. How do they continue this? Because not to take a page out of Maria Trivelpiece's book, but they've won a lot of games in a row. That means at some point they're going to lose one. But where do they have to excel in order to make sure it's not in the tournament that they come up empty and then aren't able to go dancing?
Their motto is today, not tomorrow. And I think that if they can truly continue to live by that motto, they're going to be just fine. Yeah. Because everything that we just talked about that they do well, the rebounding, the way that they score, the way that they hit at a high percentage, I think that will continue because they have so many people on that roster that if somebody's slumping one day, another player just picks it up. I think the key for them is to remain in the present moment and focus on today, and that's what's going to happen tomorrow, not what happened yesterday. Yeah. And I think that that's why they've been able to win games, and that's how they'll continue to win games, especially come tournament time.
And I think to add to that, and they haven't done this yet, which is why they're undefeated in conference play, but they've been getting off to quick starts. You can't allow for other teams to have hope. It sounds pretty dark, like kill their hope early. Like don't even get into don't give them any bright spot early. But they're 87-7 when they lead with 5 minutes remaining. I mean, it's just unbeatable almost, and that's under Coach Edmonds, by the way. When they're trailing with 5 minutes left, they're 11-50. So even with a couple of games this year where they've trailed with 5 minutes left and they've come back and won the game, it's happened a couple times this year. You can't do that in tournament time because the intensity, the physicality, the shot making, all of that plays a factor come tournament time. And when you have a team like Rice that is going to have the target on the back as that zero just turns into a target in March, that's going to be a thing that they have to overcome, I think, at some point in the tournament. Get off to a quick start, and it makes things a lot easier. And
I'd even argue that this Rice team is even better when they aren't getting off to quick starts. We just talked about that win against Tulsa. That was an evenly matched game in the first half.
They weren't trailing at the break or trailing at the end of the game.
I agree with you, but I'm still going to not disagree, but I still think with their confidence in the way that they play together, I think that's that intangible thing that you can't measure on a stat sheet. Yeah. And I would we don't bet on this show, but I would think positively about the Rice
If you
Owls.
were a betting
I
woman.
was a betting woman, I would still maybe bet on Rice in those moments with the way that they've been playing.
I don't disagree. I just think that happened in February.
Yes.
And we're going into March.
And March. And I agree with you on that
And
point.
that's what's going to get crazy.
Because you know who also is really good in March?
Who's that?
The South Florida Bulls.
Yeah, they are. They're good anytime. They're good no matter who's coaching, who's playing, whatever's going to happen.
Well, let's start with what you saw from South Florida. You just had them, and you said that this team is the real deal. Why do you think that?
Well, I think, one, they have the high-end talent. We've talked about it multiple times. They might be the most talented team in the conference. And now seeing them up close, they have struggled at times to shoot the rock. They're not the best shooting team, but my goodness, they are the most physical team. They play a brand of intense, physical basketball. And I don't know if they have the same depth that Rice does because they only play with a 6 or 7 person rotation most of the time. But I give a lot of credit to Michelle Woods-Baxter taking over this program late. She takes over in October. She replaces a legend in Jose Fernandez, who takes the WNBA head coaching job with the Dallas Wings. And even with that late shift, and she still has the interim tag on it, I encourage South Florida to take that interim tag off because she has earned the right with 2 decades worth of experience in this program that you can see the rotations, you can see the coaching, the ability that all of these teams bring together, and they are certainly a team that did that. Edyn Battle, Carla Brito, Stephanie Ingram, Laura Putu. I mean, all these players can take over a game and decide it any given night. Even against North Texas, this South Florida team was shorthanded. They did not have their second leading scorer on the board with Katie Davidson. She was out for personal reasons. And how did they combat it? Those 4 that I just mentioned combined for 62 of the 64 or 66 points they put up against one of the top defensive units in the American Conference in North Texas. That's 94% of their scoring in that game. They're physical. They're aggressive on the ball. They forced 20 turnovers against the Mean Green, the most during conference play and the second highest total that they've had this season. That's what sets them apart. If they have the depth to play with them, the Rice Owls is who I'm talking about, I think it would be a different conversation, but they have the talent that's going to stick with anybody they play with.
Well, I think it's interesting because every week we pick a player to highlight from South Florida, and it's somebody different every time because they do have so much high-end talent. I agree with you in the fact that Rice has that depth that we just talked about that I don't know if South Florida has, but the skill set of their top players, in my opinion, could be unmatched with the Carla Britos, who again is the 5th leading scorer, and she was the preseason player of the year. We saw her perform in March. This week we're talking about Edyn Battle and everything that she's done, and so I think that the talent is there. And the other thing that I think bodes well for South Florida is their ability to know how to play in March, because that's a whole different thing as well. We can talk about stats and numbers all we want. We were talking about UTSA last year at this time going in to the tournament, and what happened in the first game? They lose. And so I think South Florida, again, as we already said, they came into the last tournament as the 3 seed. They're sitting at the 3 right now. It's obviously not final, but it does bode well for them because they know how to play from that position and how to win games when the lights are on.
Well, one of the reasons why they are going to have success in March, and they have in recent years, and we're going to have some March Madness trivia later in the show. I've got a trivia question for you.
Okay.
What is the one element of a team that over time has struggled whenever March comes around and you play in these neutral site games? One element of the team.
Like the baskets and the way that you see it.
So what would that relate to?
Yeah.
Shooting. Bang, you got it. Shooting tends to take a dip. The shooting percentages tend to take a dip around the league, not just the American Conference, but around college basketball in general. When you play in these bigger stadiums, it's a different depth perception. It's a different environment. And then, of course, shooters like to play loose. They like to play fluid. When you're in March, you can't necessarily do that, at least unless you have ice in your veins, and that's what makes March special. However, this is a team that does the little things that are going to travel into March. They don't, like I said, they don't shoot the ball particularly well. They're not a bad shooting team. Let me get that very clear. But they aren't necessarily the number one shooting team in the conference. They play defense. They force turnovers. They have plenty of areas where they can win games outside of shooting. Plus, they have a player like Edyn Battle who has really stepped up as of late. And you talk about one of 2 players in the American this year averaging at least 15 points, 4 assists in conference play. She was named American Player of the Week. a couple times this year, former ASUN newcomer of the year, couple years at Miami, Ohio, couple years at Jacksonville. That means experienced and electric Edyn Battle, and that's what she's done this year for South Florida.
I love that you bring up the experience, because I think as we talk about March, that's what's going to help and set teams apart. Why is Rice playing so well? Why do they feel comfortable? Because they're one of the few teams who can retain players, because people want to go there for the education, because of what Lindsay Edmonds has done. In this era of the transfer portal, it's sometimes hard for people to get players to stay for multiple years, one, and two, picking up people in the portal who have a lot of experience, because sometimes people are transferring because they didn't play in their last
and they're
spot.
highly coveted. If you have experience out of the portal, you are a target from top programs across the country.
And Edyn Battle was one of those players. South Florida gets her, and I think that experience translates into March. And so that's why we talk about Rice being a contender in the American Conference tournament. I would say the same thing about South Florida, because you have players who have a lot of experience, like Katie Davidson, Edyn Battle, Carla Brito, Laura Putu. They're all on that roster as well. They've had a lot of minutes of college basketball under their belt.
Yeah, I think if we see South Florida on one side of the bracket and Rice on the other side of the bracket, there's a very good chance that those two meet again and play for a automatic bid and punch their ticket into the big dance. What do you feel like needs to happen between now and then in order for them to get it done?
That's tough for me to say, because I think the way that they've been playing right now has shown me that they're capable of winning. I think if you look at their losses, though, we talk about, they won 5 of their last 7. Who are their losses to? East Carolina and Rice. So winning the big games against the bigger opponents is the factor that literally needs to happen. You're going to have to play at least one of those teams. If you win your first game, you're going to have to play both of them. So you have to find ways to beat the teams that are right now better than you on paper.
And even then, I still think they have the talented roster in order to get it done. I think for me, it boils down to the defensive side of the ball. They dominated in the first half against North Texas, a team that scores 70 points per game. I mean, they forced 8 steals. They held the Mean Green to 32% from the field. Laura Putu was phenomenal. Inez Piper was great, who filled in and kind of has been back and forth in the starting lineup. She had 3 steals herself. I mean, they need to have that level of physicality in order to really win those games. Now, speaking on North Texas, I mean, this is a team that had been playing really good basketball going into that matchup. The Mean Green had won 4 straight. South Florida took care of business. But let's talk about the Mean Green and what they bring to the table as well.
I think that this is a team that has been fun to watch as the season has gone on, and I know I say that about a lot of teams, but I think that they're a team that has gotten better as the year has progressed, because they do a lot of the little things as well. You get to cover them every single day, so you can talk to some of the mistakes that they've made as well. But I think the one thing for me with North Texas is the way that they play defense. Even if they're not playing well, they're very physical. They have Megan Nestor on the boards. I think that those little things have helped them in these last 4 or 5 that they've won, because of the way that they've been able to, what's the word I'm looking for? Just
grow, develop.
Not even grow, but just, I would even say, like, buckle down on what they're good at and be better at what they're good at.
Okay, so you're doubling down and adding to it.
Yeah. I guess that's the best word I was looking for.
You're being very nice about it. You're being very analytical about it. I just think, plain and simple, they're starting to look scary.
Okay.
I know it's March, but it feels like spooky season for North Texas because of the way that they're playing now. Because what did I say on this show a couple weeks back? Ooh. There were a couple inevitables when it came to the Mean Green. Asia Proctor, she's going to score.
Yep.
Megan Nestor, she's going to rebound. She's going to control the paint. Now there are a couple other elements that seem inevitable. I actually want to give you credit,
because I want to interrupt. What was the one player that you said needed to do more if they wanted to play better?
They needed Andy Schisler to step up big.
Yes.
And she has done that. My goodness, what a month of February that Andy Schisler put together. In her last 5 games, she had 21 of 31 from the field. Not from the field, from the 3-point line. She was above 50% from 3 on 51 shots, or 41 shots rather. Incredible stuff from Schisler, and she plays lockdown on-ball defense. She was comfortable rolling in and out of situations, the switches, the effort, the rebound. There was a rebound against Laura Putu, who's one of the best rebounders in the American Conference, where she baited Putu to think she was going to get caught on a box out, and then slipped underneath her and grabbed the rebound from Putu, who then fell over the top of Schisler and got called for the foul and put Schisler at the line. It's incredible to see the way that she's grown over the last few weeks, and that she's earned the nickname in Denton, Andy Swishler.
Ooh, okay, I love that.
So it's been incredible, and the crowd gets into it. She's become a favorite. There were times early in the year where it was a worry from not only the fans of North Texas, but even those close to the organization, that she wasn't having fun. She's having fun.
Yeah.
Oh, man, she's smiling while she's playing. She's knocking down big threes. She's just clutch. And she's a former JUCO All-American that North Texas really wanted back in the early days of her recruitment. She decided to stay an extra year at the JUCO level because she felt like she had unfinished business with her current school, but then kept her commitment to North Texas, showed up, didn't play her brand of basketball the first couple months of the year, and credit to Jason Burton, credit to their staff. They made sure they found a way to get her comfortable again. And it's almost automatic. When she lets a ball go now, it feels like it's going in every single time. Swishler. But she's not alone, too. Micaiah Chase had 11 points in 3 straight games after that South Florida game. Jazzy Owens Barnett, talk about experience. She played 75 games at Rice, and she had kind of an off day against South Florida, but she's kind of been the facilitator of that offense and the way that they've kind of gone downhill, drawn fouls, added physicality. She's a great defender. She forces steals. She gets in front of drivers in the paint and draws charges unlike anybody else on the team. So this North Texas team is legit. They of course, have won 4 of their last 5. They struggled early in the season. But I think the 3 teams we're talking about now, I'll throw East Carolina in the mix as well. We'll talk about them a little later too. But those 4 teams that are in the slots to get the bye to the semifinals and to the quarterfinals, any one of those 4 teams on any given day can win this tournament.
I think that's what makes it so exciting because of the competition level, and you see teams playing some of their best basketball at this point. And that's what, as a coach, you want, but it doesn't always happen. And so the fact that Andy Schisler is starting to play better, the fact that North Texas as a team is starting to play better, we just talked about 2 other teams who are starting to capitalize on things that they do well. I think it makes for a very we use parity all the time, but I'm going to go back to it. We haven't used it in a couple of weeks. The parity at the top as we head to Birmingham, I think will be something that everybody should tune into.
Yeah, and when I talked about, I almost called her Swishler again, and I've had to try that a couple times. Like I've had to stop myself a couple times on the play-by-play calls of calling her Swishler. I did it as a fun thing, but Andy Schisler, I want to give her credit because her name is going to be a household name in Denton if she does what she has been doing into March. But the way that they played before her, that was the missing piece. That was the missing element. And now you've got multiple primary ball handlers. You've got an electrifying shooter and defender. And then you've got the post play that you have from Megan Nestor. This team can win a conference tournament. I'm excited about it. They've got to ultimately have, and they've had an emphasis on playing March basketball because we talked about Rice, talked about South Florida and how they've traditionally had success in March. East Carolina could be thrown in that conversation too. North Texas has not. Even when they've been the high seeds, they've fallen early. And they've made a run. They were in the semifinals last year, fell to South Florida, but they had the 2 seed in the conference. They felt like they deserved a spot in the title game. They're going to have to earn it this year. They're going to have to step up that intensity, step up that environment, step up that pace. The physicality matched South Florida in that game. It felt like a March game on March Eve, February 28th.
March Eve.
But it was really a fun matchup. I know they're disappointed that they lost it, but it proved to me that this team can do some really special things.
I think even, as you said, even though they lost, they're still right there. Yeah. And when the lights come on in Birmingham, they have another opportunity to redeem themselves from that loss and maybe some of the other mistakes that they've had along the way. But they're in a really good spot right now. We got to talk about East Carolina. We talked about Rice. We talked about South Florida and North Texas. But this team, 21 regular season wins. That's a program record, and 13 conference wins. And it's funny because it's almost as if they've been on a back burner on this show because of what Rice has done when they're just having a barn burner of a season as well.
No, I think you're exactly right. It's the combination of what Rice is doing at the top and then the fight and the jockey back and forth that we've seen from the teams below them. But they've been so consistent.
Completely consistent.
That we've, not even just we, I mean, of course we're paying attention, but I think the country hasn't realized just how good of a season East Carolina is having. And they had senior day on Saturday with Savannah Brooks and Kennedy Fauntleroy, Jayla Herp, Ajane Hutton, Kiana Rembert, Bobby Smith, some key contributors to this Pirates organization. And it's the 8th time in program history that ECU has finished second or higher in conference play. The first time in nearly a decade and a half. 2013 was the last time that they finished with this high of a seed. This team is so talented in their own right, just like we talked about with South Florida and Rice, maybe even more so at times, because they tend to get off to these slow starts. It doesn't look like that with that scoreboard there, but they tend to get off to a slow start here and there, and then they make up for it immediately. They shot 2 for 17 in the first quarter against Charlotte. They were held to 11 field goals without a make against the 49ers at one point in time. Still caught fire and won the game. Ajani Hutton led ECU with 14 points, her 18th game that she's had with double figures this season. They have multiple players, just like Rice does, that can step up any given night and lead the Pirates to a victory.
And the big thing with East Carolina for me will always be their defense. And I know offensively we've seen them put up numbers this year as well,
Sure.
but Kim McNeil just leans on her defense and also forcing turnovers. That's what she loves her defenses to do. They've been able to do that in the American this year. And I think that the intangible part, because we've talked about intangibles for all of these teams, is the scrappiness of East Carolina. I think when you see them play in person, you get an even greater sense of it. They are just scrappy. That defense works. Kim McNeil is all over that team. But when you talk about buy-in and just the way that they all work together as a unit, I think that's the one side of this East Carolina team that maybe doesn't get noticed quite as much because of the way that they've been able to put up some offensive numbers and the individual pieces that they have on this roster.
Yeah, they're one of 4 teams that are top 5, actually top 4 in both scoring offense and scoring defense. But like you said, you talked about that scrappiness. They're number 1 in turnover margin. Right. So they take care of the basketball, but they force a ton of turnovers, and I think that's what really sets them apart. And even when we've talked with Coach McNeil throughout the season, that's what she predicates this team off of, and that's what she wants to do. Yeah, they're going to put up points, but they want to put it up off of turnovers. And when it's a make or a miss, they're going to run the floor. If it's a turnover, they're going to run the floor and they're going to hit the ground running. All of these things are a factor, and that's why they've gotten to this point. But let's talk about Ajani Hutton and what they've done, because throughout the year, we've kind of talked about the other elements of this team. Rembert, of course, the transfer from Charlotte. Fauntleroy, the transfer from Arizona State. But Hutton has consistently been a key contributor. She's from Dallas originally, went to UCF, kind of bounced around a little bit, and then has slowly but surely taken over. And she's even come off the bench a couple times this year, but still putting up double figures.
When Kim McNeil talked about her last year, one of the big things for her was getting comfortable at East Carolina because, as you said, spent some time at UCF, started her career at Howard, been a few different places at varying levels as well. And so when she came to East Carolina, she was still trying to figure out how to be comfortable. She didn't play in 23-24 because of an injury. So figuring out how to utilize her body in a way that is effective was key for her, and now she's doing that, and you can see her hitting her stride. And let's see, she started college basketball in 2020, so this is year 6 of college basketball, and it's really awesome to see the way that she's been able to put up numbers like this.
Experience. We've talked about it. How many times have we talked about experience? You get old, you stay old in college basketball, and that's the way you win games. What's your key for ECU making a run in March?
Continuing to do what they do in terms of taking care of the basketball and forcing those turnovers. We just talked about the way that shooting will sometimes take a hit in March. The defense of East Carolina has been their calling card, not just this year, but the entire tenure under Kim McNeil. If they can continue to do that, I think it puts them in a good spot, especially the scrappy defense that I like to see.
We agree a lot on this show, and we're usually in lockstep, you and I. But that was spot on. That deserves like a high five type of agreement.
Fall over my laptop.
Yeah, just throw over the laptop in the process.
Fine.
But shooting teams tend to struggle in March and in bigger venues. The numbers take a dip, but if you can play defense and you can win the rebounding battle and the turnover battle, they can still make a run, and they're so talented. I know I've used that term a lot, but these top 4 teams just have separated themselves, in my opinion, and what they've done in the league. And that's where I think that's where, one, this new tournament format is so interesting because you're not going to see the first-round upsets that kind of takes one of those teams out of contention. They're going to get time to watch and learn and rest and get healthy and go into these tournament games at such a high level. ECU has made multiple three-point shots in 37 consecutive games, going back to February of last year. 37 consecutive games with multiple three-point shots. They are one of the better shooting teams in the conference. I'm interested to see if they can continue that and move into March with a little bit of that touch over the top. But you got to play other elements, and they can do that.
We hit on the top 4 teams. There's some other teams that are trying to find their way maybe into one of those top 4 spots or somewhere else. Temple's one of those teams, but they're playing some of their best basketball as well. They've won 4 of their last 5. You see a trend here. These teams starting to play their best basketball in March. And I think the thing with Temple is you're seeing more players starting to have an impact.
Oh, yeah. It's multiple players. You talk about the defensive side. I mean, they can take care of the basketball. They're going to give up some points, but they take such high percentage looks, and I love the way they move on offense. There's a lot of screens, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of ball movement itself, and it really forces defenses to take care of the basketball themselves. Where you look at UAB, the game that they played against the Blazers, they had 21 turnovers forced in that game. Temple had just 6. So even when they're moving the ball and they're showcasing back and forth the type of movement they have, they're still doing it in a smart way, and it leads to high percentage looks. Al scored 29 points off of those 21 turnovers, so they can also run off of misses and mistakes from other teams. And you talk about how everyone has stepped up in multiple ways. They rank 4th in the conference in offensive rebounds, 13 per contest. They're 5th in the American Conference in three-point percentage. They also can shoot the rock a little bit, like I talked about with ECU. Tristan Taylor leads the American in assist-to-turnover ratio, nearly 2 in that category, which is a very high number for an individual. Top mark in the conference, one of the top in the country. I mean, they look to anybody and everybody to make an impact, and I think Taylor is, and she has been, but she continues to be the one that sets the tone for the Owls.
And it's interesting because you mentioned Tristan Taylor, but the Owls also have the leading scorer in the conference in Kayla Turner, averaging 16.9 points per game. And so we've talked a lot about teams coming into this, and one thing that we said was that there hasn't been like that individual player who stands out. Temple kind of has 2 of those in Tristan Taylor and Kayla Turner, and they've been able to score the basketball and just create some chaos for their team. And I think the biggest thing for Temple is, can they continue to play good basketball into March? Because they've had some games where, like that, I'll never forget that Charlotte game earlier in the year where they come back and win that one. But I think they've been very up and down all season long. So they've won 4 of their last 5. Can they continue on this streak? I'm taking a look at their schedule right now, what they have left.
I've got it right here if you want me.
Yep, go for it.
At South Florida and then at home against Florida Atlantic. So one really tough one. And then Florida Atlantic's a team that it depends on the day. You got to play better basketball against them too.
Yeah, because we've seen Florida Atlantic beat teams like South Florida. They've had their moments where they do play some good basketball. And so I think these last 2 games will tell me a lot about Temple. But as we've said multiple times, when you get into March, anything can really happen. And I think under Diane Richardson, a woman who knows how to coach in March and historically has been able to, I wouldn't count the Owls out just yet either.
I'm going to do an exercise here.
Okay. Is it one that I'm going to struggle with?
No, this will be easy. I'm going to say a name of a team.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me if they're on the top half of the league. I want you to tell me it's a good team or a bad team.
Can we use a different word than bad?
Yeah, that's fair. Good team or
has struggled.
Or struggling
team.
Okay. These are the losses for Temple this year.
Okay.
You're going to catch a theme here. UTSA.
It's good.
It's a good team. Tulsa.
Good.
East Carolina.
Good.
Tulane. That's probably the one kind of iffy
team,
one.
Yeah.
How about Rice?
Very good.
North Texas.
Good.
UTSA again.
Good.
East Carolina.
Good.
Rice again.
Very good.
Those are the losses for Temple. They maybe have the one loss to Tulane, but they also have the win against them in overtime. So they were able to turn that around and flip it. Again, they have a win against South Florida, which is one thing a lot of teams can't say in this conference this year. And they've been very close in games. They almost beat North Texas. They almost beat East Carolina. They had multiple games where they've been behind and come from behind, like you talked about with the Charlotte game. So, yeah, don't count out Temple at all. I mean, this is a talented team in their own right, but they got to get off to better starts. They're just 2-11 when trailing at halftime this year. And they talk about Temple tough, and one of those games was that Charlotte game, by the way. The Temple tough scenario, that's how they win games, because they've got to be just as physical. They have the finesse game down, the running, the turnovers, the assists, the ball movement. The physicality is where they lack, and that's going to be a tough thing against Rice and against North Texas and against South Florida. They've got to be better and more physical against those teams, and that's how they make a run.
Because that physicality is what we talked about as the key for most of these teams heading into March, and they're already physical. So can Temple match that toughness and physicality of the other teams? I think will be the big question mark as we head to Birmingham.
No doubt about it. And another team that's been very good in terms of shooting the basketball and the finesse game is the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. This is a team that, at least as of February 23rd, they've garnered the most American Conference names and awards. 13 teams in the league. They've won 16 individual awards at different times this season. I mean, Tulsa, you speak about the upper echelon of talent in the league, and we've mentioned it as well. They've just struggled because they've had those ins and outs in the games like they had against Rice, where they, off to a great start, 23-23 after the first quarter, and then you get outscored by 40 the rest of the way.
Well, we talked a lot about shooting, right? And they're a team that shoots the basketball a lot.
Very well.
And when they're on, and they're very difficult to beat. When they're off,
it's tough.
Very tough.
Yeah.
Because some of those other intangibles that we talked about, doing the little things well that the teams at the top half of this conference have done, like taking care of the basketball, the physicality, the defense, sometimes Tulsa struggles with.
Look at that number on the win-loss margin at the bottom. +10 in the wins and -20 in the losses. I'm sorry that I interrupted there, but I wanted to make sure we pointed that out, because that is very telling that when it goes south very quickly. When they're winning, they're dominant at different times in the year.
Do you think it's mental, like a mentality of it, or do you think it's just physical mistakes? Like when they lose that bad, do you think it's I don't want to say giving up. That's not what I'm like. That's not the phrase.
Elf team.
Yeah,
no way.
Yeah, but do you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, shooters have a shooter mentality, right? Where you have to flush the misses and you have to not get too high on the makes, right? You got to keep it level-headed. It's like a kicker in football. Like you can't get too high, can't get too low. And it's hard to do that because we're all human and we're all in the game at the same time, or at least they are in the game at the same time. And if you're one player is not playing their best basketball and they're missing shots, and then this player starts missing shots, you can't help but have the human nature of that doubt creep in. That's why basketball is a game of runs, because it takes time to switch your mindset. That's why coaches call timeouts in the middle of games, to switch a run and try and flip a run on its head and bring it to an end, because it does happen. Tulsa is a team that has the highest of highs, as you've seen there. They have the lowest of lows as well. And when you get into March, those teams are dangerous. Yeah. Because if they get hot and they get rolling, they're going to be tough to beat.
And you saw it there in that first half against Rice. Too many teams in my head. Against Rice, the way that they shot the basketball. So I think that if their shooting does travel, puts them in a good spot.
Yeah, and they've got a couple players that they can rely on. You talk about what Maddie Cartwright has done, what Riddick has done this season. Hannah Riddick, 19th double-figure scoring game this season. She had 13 points in that game earlier in the week. Maddie Cartwright became the 14th player in program history to reach the 1,000-point club in Tulsa history. She also needed just 7 points to eclipse the mark. She did so with back-to-back three-pointers in the first quarter.
So on brand.
And ended up with 20 or 17 points and a team high in the event. So, yeah, Riddick, Cartwright, they are two players that you can rely on. They have a lot of really good young freshmen and young underclassmen that don't have the experience that some of the other levels and other teams do at this level. I think they're still good enough to where if they have the right mentality and the right start, they can stay hot and win some big games.
I have to agree with you on that. Just from when they're watching them when they're on and when they're good, they're so tough to beat. And so, as you said, if they can get some of those other players going, it might bode well for them in Birmingham. There's a cluster of teams, though, right now that are trying to make their way.
And one of them is Tulsa. You got a couple other ones that have the ability to talk about maybe making a run in the tournament. I mean, we've talked about UTSA. We talked about Tulane. We talked about Florida Atlantic. How about Florida Atlantic? What a season they've had.
You made fun of me the last time I talked about Florida Atlantic on this show in the way that I did, but I think it's been so impressive to see what they've been able to do this season, especially from a year ago. I believe they were either the 12 or the 13 seed. They were in that playing game and they lost. It didn't even make it to the big field at Dickies Arena. And so the fact that they went from that a year ago to now they're going to make the American Conference tournament, I think it just gives so much credit to that program, to the new staff, and it's been so much fun to watch the success that they've had.
And this is the type of season they needed. They needed to just take a step forward. You don't actually have to see them win tournaments or go to the postseason quite yet. I mean, that's just not necessarily the realistic expectation. But the expectation for FAU is let's turn this program around and not be the 3-15 team that they were last year in the American Conference. They want to double. They've already doubled their win total. They've already taken steps in the right direction. I think what Leanne Freeland has done there is really impressive, and it shows that they can win in Paradise, and they have the ability to do that. And credit to the staff of at least putting them in position. Are they going to make the tournament? They still got to win some games in order to do that, or win in the tournament. They still got to win some games to do that. But I think Florida Atlantic is still a huge part of this picture that's going to just get clarified in the terms of the seeding and whatever's going to happen here in the schedule over the next couple of weeks.
I think the fact that they've already clinched a spot is just
huge.
It's huge for this program, and that's one of the teams that is there. They're fighting again. We don't know the seeding yet. Charlotte's another team that's kind of been up and down all year. UTSA is more of the surprise. We didn't know what they would look like without Jordan Jenkins, but they've been able to string together some wins. And so I think that come tournament time, it'll be fun to see where everybody ends up seated.
Yeah.
And then it's a free-for-all once we get
Absolutely.
there.
And the final schedule of games on the last day of the regular season is going to tell us a lot, too. I mean, you got that Florida Atlantic Temple game is a fun one, a little battle of the Owls. There's a couple of Owls in the conference,
Lots of
as
Owls.
we've talked about in the past. I like that East Carolina Tulsa game, too.
I'm always going to circle that one because Tulsa's a team. When they get hot, they play really well. East Carolina's been that other top team at the conference that gets a little bit overshadowed right now because of Rice, but they're so good. And so I think because of that, teams might not be paying as much attention to them. So
maybe so.
We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, and the only team you don't see here on the final day of the regular season is North Texas. They are off, which is also a bit of an advantage. Keep that in mind because if they're off here, that means they may very easily be in the semifinals or not the semifinals, but the quarterfinals with the bye, and then maybe get that second bye too. So they're going to have a little bit of rest and a little extra time to hang out going into that time. We know somebody else is going to have some time to rest.
Yes, somebody is head coach Lindsay Edmonds of the Rice Owls, the American Conference regular season champions, and she joined us on the show.
Welcoming in American Conference regular season champion head coach Lindsay Edmonds of the Rice Owls. Rice on an unbelievable streak, 21 games straight of a win, and then, of course, undefeated in American Conference play. Coach, congratulations on the success to this point. I know this isn't the end goal, but what does it feel like at this point in the season to achieve really everything that you set out for at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, it feels incredible. I'm so grateful. I feel so blessed. I mean, our players have been incredible this year. I don't know. It's amazing to win a tournament championship, but the feeling of winning a regular season championship and the consistency that you have to have in order to do that, it's hard work day after day for multiple months. And I'm just so proud of that effort. Like you mentioned, though, the job's not finished. And we keep reminding that to our players to make sure that we stay humbled, we stay grounded, we stay focused on the task at hand. And that's TNT and the opportunity to go 1-0 every single day.
Coach, we've had a few of your players on this show already, and they've talked about that TNT today, not tomorrow. Where did that come from, and can you describe it a little bit?
Every year you're looking for a mantra, a slogan, something that your players are going to hold on to, they're going to buy into, they're going to believe in. And my staff and I were just bouncing ideas around. And I actually believe it was Danny Grant on my staff that came up with it. And everybody was like unanimous, like, let's roll with it, let's go with it. And so credit to Danny for coming up with it, but then also credit to the entire program for truly buying in. There's never been a second that I've questioned whether or not everyone's totally bought into TNT.
Coach, this is a team that we've talked about multiple times on this show that just has so much discipline and depth. And that's what's made this season so special. Can you talk about the origins of both of those things? The fact that you're able to get the type of player that you are at Rice, but also the depth that you're able to build this roster with too.
Yeah, I mean, I think my staff does an incredible job of targeting in on the right type of players that are going to fit our Rice culture, fit our Rice family, and they do an incredible job. It matters to us that they can play basketball, but they have to be an unbelievable person to enter into our locker room, and so I think that piece. It's something that we haven't missed on, and we are able to retain our players. We're able to get additions out of the portal that we know are going to fit into our family incredibly well. And it's just been so much fun. It's been so much fun building it. I feel like my staff and I have done it the right way. There wasn't a quick fix. Let's do it all in one season, but we have slowly, foundation by foundation, brick by brick, laid the foundation to where we are today. And so I'm proud of that efforts. I think just the discipline comes from our leadership. Our leadership of our seniors have been here for 4 years, and they truly understand what the standard is. They understand the excellence that is expected, and they know how to protect that standard. And so when we're not protecting that standard, our seniors, our veterans, our leaders, they're holding other players accountable. Coach-led programs are incredible. But player-led programs are even better, and I feel like we have a very player-led locker room this year, and it's definitely set the tone for us.
Coach, do you have an example of how that leadership maybe came to fruition at one point in the year when those seniors and leaders did bring those younger players with them?
I mean, it's honestly been every single day. It's been ever since we prepared for our foreign tour. Like we didn't have to be all in on those 10 practices in May, but they were all in. Like there was never a day that they were like, oh, it's May, we shouldn't be practicing. I'm tired. It's been a long year. There was never a moment of that, and I think that really set the tone of what the year was going to look like. And they just kept showing up the same way every single day, consistent as people, consistent with their energy, consistent with their focus. And then it all just correlated over into the practice side. We respected our opponent. We respected the preparation. We respected the game plan defense. No matter who we were playing, where we were playing, they were just very, very consistent. My boss at NC State used to say, I want to have McDonald's fries on my team because that means McDonald's fries taste the same no matter where they're at, no matter what state you're in, they taste exactly the same. And so my team has been exactly the same no matter who we're playing, no matter where we're playing at. So I think we finally have some McDonald's fries, I guess.
That's awesome. Supersized, too, the way that you guys are getting it done. Once again, Coach Lindsay Edmonds here on All-American. Coach, I've never asked this question to coaches, but there's a reason I ask it. Who's the best player on your team? Because I'm just trying to figure it out, and there's 5 or 6 players that it depends on the day ends up being the best player on the Rice Owls. I mean, it's been incredible to watch just how top end and the depth kind of have meshed together this year. You don't actually have to answer that question, but speak to what it's been like.
I can't answer that question. They all bring something so different, and we wouldn't be who we are without every single one of them. I think their unselfishness and there is a very big part of our success. No one cares who gets the glory. No one cares who gets the shots. No one cares about, I have to score 20 points every single night. And on any given night, we have a different person step up. But everybody brings what they're supposed to bring every single night, whether they're scoring 20 points or whether they're getting 13 rebounds or whether they're leading the charge on the defense side of the basketball. They're all showing up for us. our five are so incredible. I had a really hard time with end of this season awards. I didn't know who to put up for what because everybody carries so much weight. Everybody carries so much value to this program, and we wouldn't be who we are without every single person on this team.
That's so unique, Coach, because a lot of times when you see a team on this remarkable of a run, they've got the best player on the floor, and it's pretty cut and dry. You have the best player on the floor, but it's different every single night, and I think that's just so cool about how this team has come together and the type of season that they've had.
And, Coach, you talk about wanting to play better in the regular season. And as we opened up this show talking about, you have done that. Now you're getting ready for this postseason tournament where you've had a lot of success the last 2 years. What are the conversations like with your team to get them ready for yet another postseason and continue the momentum that you've had?
Yeah, I mean, we have played really well in January and February this year, but now we have an opportunity to try to play well in March as well. March doesn't care about what we've done in January and February, and no one's going to hand us anything. So I think we have to have our backs against the wall. We have to be as prepared as we have been in the past other games as we will be in these games coming up. And so I think it's just a matter of continuing to stay focused, continuing to stay grounded, remind them of our successes in the past, but also understand that we got to go do it again. We got to go take it. No one's going to hand anything to us. Nothing is going to be handed to us. And so we have to be desperate to start March off the same way that we finished off February.
Well, Coach, January, February, the Owls have been fun to watch. We can't wait to see you in Birmingham. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you for having me.
Great stuff, as always, from Coach Edmonds, and congratulations to her, the Rice Owls, everybody, because, my goodness, what a season, what a run. They are on, just trying to push not only for the possible automatic bid in the tournament, but, I mean, they're in the conversation, receiving votes, like we talked about there, as a team that's trying to make it to the big dance as an at-large, even if they don't take care of business in Birmingham.
Well, I think the committee needs to really look at this team if they don't win the tournament, because they have been so good all year, a 21-game winning streak. I think that it's hard to argue to not put them in the tournament. I probably could have said that more eloquently, but I just think they've been playing so well and been so much fun to watch.
Well, let's learn a little bit more about the tournament in which they want to play in when it comes down to it. We did the March Madness trivia on the men's side last week. Let's see and test our knowledge on this one. I'm a little newer to the women's side of the bracket than I was on the men's side of things. So let's see how much I know with some of these trivia questions around March Madness. Let's get it started. Let's see. Who won the first NCAA women's basketball championship and when was it? So this is the same question that we had on the men's side, which the answer was Oregon in 1939. This was a little tougher for me.
Okay, I feel like 80, like around 1980 was when it was.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking like Title IX when it came out, which I think was 72. I did trivia on this and I should know this. So I feel like 1980 was maybe the first one, and I'm gonna lean on Tennessee.
You're just gonna go straight Tennessee.
Yeah.
I'm gonna think it's a West Coast school.
Ooh,
for some reason, like kind of like somebody out west. I'm gonna say Stanford.
Okay.
In like 1983.
Okay.
Let's see. Louisiana Tech. I should have known this. I've done games with Louisiana Tech.
That's where Kim Mulkey played.
Kim Mulkey was on that team.
Yes. Okay.
1982.
All right.
So we were close in terms of time.
Right.
Man, I didn't realize that was the first one.
I didn't know
That's
that was the
wild.
first one. Yeah.
That's the thing. Is like you and I both know of the team because of what Kim Mulkey did
her
out
braids,
in Ruston.
Yeah.
And if you do games in Ruston, the Thomas Assembly Center on campus there, it's an older venue. It's a little smaller, but it's really cool because there's a lot of history there. They were playing there in 1982, and all the banners circle the top of the building, and it's just nostalgic. Really cool venue there at La Tech. All right, who has won the most national championships? I think I've got this one.
I believe it's UConn, right?
It's got to be UConn, right?
It has to be UConn.
And then however many UConn's got, 11, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there it is. 11 for UConn. I was about to say like 15, but nah, there's no way.
It feels like that
one.
sometimes. It was because when they won last year, it had been a minute for them to like win a national championship, which is just absurd.
Yeah.
That's the standard. I remember I watched a clip of Gino Auriemma talking about it and how much pressure he felt when they wouldn't win a national championship. Like that's just the standard there. It's wild.
11 of them is wild. Former American Conference team. What's the lowest seed to ever make it to the Final Four? I don't think it's as low as some of the ones on the men's side.
I feel like when the NC State was in it a couple years ago on the women's side, that might
What
have
were
been.
they, like an 8 or
Yeah,
a 6?
like I think it was a 6 or an 8 because both the men and women made the Final Four
Yeah,
that year.
was big.
And it was the year it was Caitlin Clark's last year. Maybe like I'm gonna go right in the middle, say 7.
Okay, I'm gonna say 8, and I'm gonna stick with you. I think
I could be.
I
wrong,
remember that as a
but
storyline. Let's say NC State as a 7. Oh, it was a 9
Arkansas
seed.
9. Okay, well we were like 2 years old when that happened. So.
Yeah, I should have still known that. I do games at Arkansas too.
Oh, okay. See,
Well,
I've never.
I'm just in a rough spot right now. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm letting everybody down, including myself. Who is the lowest seed to win an NCAA tournament game? 16
There's
over
gotta be
1
a
hasn't
6
happened.
Really? You
I don't think so. I don't think it's happened on the women's side.
I feel like one of because the Ivy Leagues are so good in women's basketball, but they always get like a lower seed just because they don't get the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
So I feel like, I'm gonna say 12,
Ooh, okay, so you're going even higher than I was thinking. I'm going to say a 14.
14. I'll
I
go
think
with
a
you on a
14 seed. We're going to split the difference. It's going to be 13.
13.
Oh, a 16
Okay,
did happen.
Okay, all right. I did not know that. We were on the right track with the Ivies, but
Yeah, you were on the right track.
But-
I am all off on this game.
Our
Everything
logic
happened in
is
the
there.
late 90s.
yeah,
2026 Final Four.
Phoenix.
It's in Phoenix, Arizona.
I knew that one.
Can't wait for that. That's going to be exciting.
Oh, I cannot wait. With the way that things are shaking up at the top. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, a lot of really good basketball overall. Can you name the last 5 natties?
Okay.
So we did this the other day. We missed one on the men's side.
UConn,
Yeah.
South Carolina.
Yeah.
The year before. Oh.
I got the one before that.
Was that South Carolina? No.
Uh-uh.
No, who beat South
It's
Carolina?
LSU. LSU.
LSU.
That was the one in Dallas. Just incredible
Right.
tournament. That was when Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and it was back and forth. That
Yeah.
was wild.
Yeah.
Before that is where it gets a little fuzzy.
I got to think about that. I think it was South Carolina than the year before.
So they went they bookended the
Yeah,
LSU
and
one. That's
maybe-
probably right.
Maybe UConn was that.
So you
'Cause
think
I
UConn bookends them both,
Yeah.
and then it's South Carolina, and then it's LSU.
in the
I'm
middle.
okay. Let's
I
submit that
think-
as
I think that's
the
what it
answer.
is.
UConn, South
Stanford.
Carolina, UConn. Oh, the Stanford one in
The
21.
Stanford one, I forgot. UConn was maybe. I know they won in 2019 because that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Right
Stewie,
before
Stewie
COVID.
won 4 years in a row.
That
so.
Stanford team was real too. That's kind of the equivalent of the Baylor one on the men's side, right?
Right.
Like kind of came out of nowhere, and nobody really anticipated them being a part of that,
Right.
because UConn was dominant all the way through, and South Carolina was just on the front end of their dynasty, and then you had LSU kind of rising a couple of years later, but still.
Well, yeah.
And then Stanford does what they did in 21. That was a wild
You
run.
can't talk about women's basketball without Tara Vanderveer. So
Yeah, that's true.
I'm glad that she was in the conversation of our trip.
And I don't
today.
think UConn actually won in 2019.
No, I
I'm
think-
trying to remember.
I'm gonna Google it. It might have been
Are you
South,
going to Google it?
maybe Notre Dame.
It's a good idea, because they had a
Was
win
that
recently.
when Agumawale hit those crazy shots?
Yes, that was in
The
2019.
two. All right, I couldn't remember that one. We're
was
there.
that also in Phoenix, or was that in New Orleans? I can't remember.
We'll look it up. Let's
Either
see.
way.
2019.
There's your women's March Madness, trivia questions. I'm trying to talk at this point.
Words are hard. We
The
said a lot
words
of
are
words
really
today.
tough. Let's say some more words, and let's say them about top plays. Would you like to get us started?
Absolutely. We'll start with some men's basketball.
Okay.
There's a couple basketball plays in this one. This one coming out of Florida Atlantic. Josiah Parker, time running out. That will put the Owls up by 1. I think 0.6 seconds were left on the clock after this. But
Ooh.
look at the clutch. Falling away from the basket. Getting the Owls going. in
Yeah,
that game.
when you start that motion, you go downhill. You got to get to the basket quick with everybody closing in around you. Clutch, Gene, to win it for the Florida Atlantic Owls. Let's move on. Number 4, back to the softball diamond as we go. UAB. How about this throw off the dive? From her knees, cross the diamond, got it in time. I like it from UAB against the Gamecocks. Madeline, how do you say the last name?
Flamia.
Flamia. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's as it's spelled.
Yeah, exactly
Madeline
as it's spelled.
Flamia dives and throws
The-
from the knees.
The throw from the knees is phenomenal because, in softball, the bases are so much shorter together. So the fact that she can still make a strong enough throw from her knees to get that base runner at first, I was like, oh, wow, fire me up.
Yeah, you gotta put a little extra mustard on it. Nicely done.
All right,
Let's stay on the softball
We
diamond,
got more
right?
softball. This one coming from an outfielder, though, so I'm going to get even more fired up, Kyle. It says Madison Garcia going back, diving backwards to make the catch.
Oh.
Yep.
I want to see that again.
Yep. Watch it.
Look at that.
Insane.
Oh. Wow.
That's one of the hardest plays to make is that
Absolutely.
ball right over your head, and then you're going backwards, and then the dive at
and then
the
you
end.
got to track it into the glove all
Yep.
the way through. That's an incredible play. Nicely done, Tulsa.
Love
Tulsa,
it.
I think Tulsa's going to be pretty good in the American this year.
Hey, I'm excited about it. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of good teams. I'm so excited for conference play in particular because that's when we're going to start to see who is going to separate
It's
themselves.
going to be awesome. UTSA, they've had a great start to their baseball season. Top 25 team. They're playing down in Houston, Texas. This is Diving Drew. Look at this. Go into the warning track. Tracking it down into the corner. Look at this angle, too. That's when you know it's a big tournament, whenever they've got angles like
That's
that
what
down
I
the
was-
foul line just to catch the catch that Drew makes here. Drew
Detlefsen.
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 Got it again. I haven't done a UTSA
That's
baseball
all right.
quite yet, but I'm
You
going to
will.
get to it.
You will. We'll get
We're
to
going to
it.
get to it. How about that? Ranging all the way to the foul line to make the play.
Top play.
I know how to say this guy's name.
We've said it so many times. Jordan Riley. You need to watch the replays because that angle doesn't even do it justice. Watch.
Wham!
Wait, that's
Oh,
not even.
poster.
Just wait. Just wait.
Oh,
Here,
no.
this is the best
Oh,
angle.
no. This poor defender.
I know.
Oh,
That's
no.
definitely going to be on a poster somewhere.
That's wild. That's unbelievable. Tough stuff
Yep.
from Jordan Riley and ECU.
How about those top plays? Do you have any gripes
Nope.
with me?
All of those were great. They were in all the way through. It's been good all the way through.
And
And then we got a bonus play. Bonus top play. How about this? USF and the Bulls. Diving catch over the wall. This is the only gripe I had, is that this wasn't number one.
do you want to hear why it's the bonus?
Why is it the
I have
bonus?
to take responsibility for this.
Okay.
This happened last week, and I missed it.
Oh.
So we had to put it as a bonus. And so, therefore, it's our bonus play. So this is my apology to the South Florida Bulls. I am sorry I missed this play because this should have been top play a week ago. So, therefore, you will have a bonus a week later.
Did somebody get in your DMs? Did somebody send a message saying you missed this one?
Yeah, Zach Fisher.
Our producer doing great work as always. Good job, Zach.
Yep.
Man, we got to make it right on an All-American episode like this. But another great time talking about women's hoops. Our next hoop show is going to be the American Conference Tournament preview. We're going to preview both
You
the
fired
men's
up?
and women's side. Absolutely, I'm fired up. We got to wake up, got to get ready. March is here. March is happening, and it's going to be a lot of fun, Maria.
I cannot wait. I've said that way too many times on the show today. I can't wait. I'm excited to watch all of the cliches, but I mean it more than anything because it is March. The madness is here. Frantic February is over. Completely done. The women's tournament and the men's tournament is coming, but this is the women's show, so we got to talk about that. For Kyle Youmans, I'm Maria Trivelpiece. Thank you so much for joining us on All American today. We can't wait to see you on the women's preview show very soon.